All right, I've got an answer to the question that I hear the most, and that is, what is due diligence versus earnest money? What is the difference? Unless you want to lose your mind because you didn't know the difference, and you might lose thousands of dollars and start talking like this. Definitely give me about a minute here. I'm going to go through the differences of due diligence and earnest money. So first of all, due diligence. What am I talking about? These two different types of money that are wrote out. So on the offer to purchase in North Carolina, you're going to have a slot, a line, if you will, for due diligence and for earnest money. Due diligence is wrote straight to the seller. So what does that mean? If you get an offer typed out and a seller agrees to your terms, then you owe them that whatever you wrote in that line for due diligence, you owe that, like now, okay? So due diligence is wrote straight to the seller, not to the attorney, not to the listing firm, and that seller will cash your check. Again, repeat, your seller that you're trying to buy their property, they agreed to your purchase price, and now you've wrote them a check. Yes, they're going to cash your check. Does that money on due diligence go towards your purchase price as far as your money that you need to bring? Yes, it is credited to you as a buyer. So the bucket of money that you got to bring at closing day, it might be $1,000. We've seen it at nothing. Obviously, we've seen zero, and we've seen, of course, $200,000, $300,000 that they've had to bring to purchase a property, even with a loan. So it is credited to the bucket of money that you have to bring. The difference between the two, due diligence and earnest money, is this. Due diligence money is non-refundable. Okay, so once it's wrote out, it's gone. She gone. She ain't coming back. There's some very rare situations that we've had due diligence come back to a buyer, and that is usually stuff that's not disclosed, big stuff that was known, or if a seller is breach of contract and don't come to closing. I've had that too. Yes, that is a real thing. So then the seller does owe the buyer all the money that they've got in the deal. Due diligence, earnest money, any inspections money. That's a whole nother video for another day. So the due diligence is going to be non-refundable, whereas earnest money can be refundable. Why did I say can and not always? Well, it depends. It depends on how long you go. To get it super confusing, the earnest money on the state of North Carolina offer to purchase goes by the due diligence date. I know that's super strange, it's super confusing, but what is the due diligence date? You got to know what that is. That is your opportunity as a buyer to inspect, to investigate that property. But the due diligence money is straight to the seller for that seller taking it off the market. The earnest money is money that usually is wrote to the closing attorney again, or the listing brokerage, a listing firm, okay? And that can be refunded if the buyer terminates before the due diligence date. How do you terminate a deal in North Carolina? Yes, you have to have a termination in writing. You can't just say, hey, I don't want to buy the house no more, and not talk to your realtor, okay? You have to sign a termination. That termination, by the way, has to be signed by you as a buyer, sent to the seller before your due diligence date by 5 p.m. If it's 3 days after your due diligence date, you're not getting earnest money back in most cases. So that is the difference. Both due diligence and earnest money, both are credited to you as a buyer for your bucket of money that you're going to need to bring. And another question, can you get earnest money or due diligence money credited back to you at closing? I have seen it. It's super rare. And in some cases where you've got a program, let's just say you're using the state of North Carolina, $15,000, and they can credit you back sometimes money that you've got into the deal. Okay, so it's possible, but really the answer is probably not. You're not going to get your money back at closing if you're using state employees, zero down payment, or some type of program. Usually no. Okay, so it is chances of that. But just want to clear that up. Due diligence and earnest money, the difference is why people lose due diligence, and of course why people lose your earnest money. If you terminate after your due diligence date, you will lose your earnest money as well. So let me know if you've got any questions on that. Comment in the video, and we will get any questions you've got answered. Y'all have a good day.